Hiya, me again, coming at you with another lesson, one of the most iconic guitar solos of all time. Albeit, we're learning it 1 month early, but let's just consider that to be prep. We're working in advance. Yeah, it's November Rain by Guns N' Roses. Have fun. I've experienced extreme highs and lows and rode them all to the end. But when they're so close together that they're virtually interwoven, it is alienating. That is something else altogether. Suddenly, the once familiar seems strange and nothing feels stable. As a kid, I'd stare in disbelief from side to side of many stages that, to me, were bigger than life itself. Now I was playing on an even bigger one, with my band's logo emblazoned on the floor beneath my feet. We had arenas full of fans waiting to see us everywhere we went, all around the world. We released 2 albums on the same day that debuted at number 1 and number 2. It couldn't have been going any better. And backstage, behind it all, we were splitting apart like the atom in an A-bomb. First of all, we need to talk about tuning. This is Slash, Guns N' Roses, so we're in E-flat standard. If you've not done that before, it means you need to take every single string down by a semitone. So all your chord shapes, scale shapes, everything you know about the guitar is the same, except we're a semitone lower, giving it a slightly more unique sound. So for this first solo, we are in the key of C major. Let's check out a couple of the positions. Let's take a look at this 3-note per string version of the C major scale as well. And a couple of other positions that we could learn. Whenever I'm waffling on about scales in these lessons, I always include them on the bottom of the PDF so you can have a look at them as well. And you can find them on my Patreon. Now, let's take a look at the opening part of the solo. What I actually like to do there is start from a couple of frets below the note I'm going to bend, maybe the 6th fret, slide into the 8th fret and then bend up, and you get this kind of like extended swooping sound to the bend. The first chord is F, and we're bending up to the major third of that F, which is why it sounds cool. So once you've bent that note up, you're going to hit it right at the top, pre-bend release, and then push it back up again. At this point, I want you to grab the 8th fret of the high E with the pinky, the note C, hit it, let the pre-bend down a little bit, and then strike it and re-bend back up. Then you're going to let it down and pull off back to the 6th fret of the B, to the index finger. Now you're going to do the exact same phrase again, but double bend at the start. This time as you let it down, don't pull off to the 6th fret of the B. Instead, come to the 5th fret with the index finger and push it up a semitone. A little bit of vibrato on its release, then up to the note C, 8th fret of the high E. And then back to the 5th fret of the B for a double semitone bend. Then this little lick. Start by pulling off the 7th fret of the G to the 5th fret, 3rd and 1st fingers. And then slide 7 to 9. Then hit the 8 on the B with the 2nd finger. And then quickly slide back to the 7th fret of the G and then hit the 5th fret. You can pick the 5 on the return, or you could also do a pull off. That would be picking it. Out of that section, we're going to move into this. So it starts exactly the same, single bend, double bend, the second time after the 8th fret of the high E with the pinky, I want you to hop your 3rd finger over, do a whole step bend, and then let it down gradually. Then move up to the 10th fret of the high E. Again, you're going to do whole tone bend, but you're going to spend longer letting it down. Milk it for everything it's got. Then you've got this cool little lick. Eighth fret of the E, 10th fret, and then pull off. 10th fret of the B, and then back to the 8 on the E. And then I slide up into the 13th fret of the B, the note C. You could just hit the 8th fret of the E twice in a row. But these are the moments when you're working out solos and you're trying to get them a little bit more accurate, where you might hear a slight tonal difference to the same note or a slide into it, and you're like, well, how are they doing that? It's probably a string change or a bend, something like that. So I try my best to try and include those little subtle differences. That, of course, puts us in the correct position to play this next part. So we're going to start with a 13 to 12 pull off on the high E, and I'm using 3rd and 2nd fingers. And then I take that 3rd finger down to the 13 on the B. Do it twice in a row. Then you've got a whole tone bend, 13th fret of the high E, and then let it down. Bit of vibrato. Then we've got this. So we're going to start by picking 10, 12, 13, index, 2nd, 3rd on the high E. And then you're going to hammer on pull off from 12 to 13, and then pull off back to the 10 in one little legato motion. Then we've got this. Again, you're going to pick 10, 12, 13 to begin with, but on the 13th fret this time, you're going to bend it up a whole step. Then you're going to do a pre-bend release. Come back to the 12 with the second finger. And then you're going to do a semitone bend up and a semitone pre-bend release. Now we're making our way all the way up to the teeny weeny tiny frets. That's the musically correct name for them. Specifically fret 19 of the high E for this lick. So we're now at the octave above the first position that we started in. And we're going to open with a semitone bend, 19th fret of the high E. Once you've hit it, you're going to pre-bend release it down and then strike the 19 twice. Pull off back to index on the 17. Now every note that you resolve on or change to, you're going to strike it 2 more times and then slide down to the next descending note of the C major scale. So on the high E string, that's going to be from 17 to 15 to 13 to 12, right? And with this pattern. So once you've made your way to the 12th fret, you can see we've got this cool little hammer-on pull-off lick, which goes like this. So that's just index second finger, 12 to 13, hammer-on pull-off, and then third finger comes down to the 15 on the B. And then you're going to resolve on the F note, 13th fret of the high E. So this brings us to what is probably my favourite part of the solo. It's the very slash descending run. It goes like this. Now, when I played it then, it wasn't that great. And again, that's because I'm going to need to put this hat on in order to get it right. Okay? Now, without this hat, it's actually impossible for me to play correctly. So let's try that again. I just had much more. Can you hear the wind? What's going on? Must be the gods of rock knocking on. Coming out to play. No, I'm not, I'm busy. Keep it down, will you? I'm trying to record. Anyway, as you can tell, that time, with the addition of the hat, the very cool hat, thanks for that, it was much more fluent and I had more sustain in my vibrato, allowing me to kind of milk that last note and bend it up with the index finger. Essential. Because this lick is kind of fiddly, let's remind ourselves of one of the scale shapes from before. Because if we understand the pattern and the way it descends, you can just apply that to the correct notes, right? Right. Or you could use these fingers. But I was playing it with the same fingers that we're going to use to play the actual solo. Here's the first part. So to begin with, we're going to pick 12, 13 on the high E. And then you're going to hammer on pull off, 12, 13, 12, 10 on the high E. Then you're going to rock back and forth between 13 on the B and 12 on the E. Then you're going to very quickly hammer on pull off 10, 12 on the high E with index and second finger. And then come down to the 13th fret of the B and then back to the 10 on the high E. Together you've got this. Now we've got this. It's pretty much the same thing moved down a string, but it just exits slightly differently. So we start with that same 12, 13 on the B, and then the quick hammer on pull off. And now we're going to have to flat bar across the 12th fret of the G and the B with the third finger, go back and forth here, and then flat bar with the index finger across the 10 of the G and the B, and pick B, G in that order. Now when you get to that 10 on the G, I want you to keep that note going, keep it alive, and then hammer on to the 12 with the third finger, pull off back to the 10, and slide back to the 9. Has a slight change in pacing and rhythm, but I feel like it's close to the track. Altogether it goes like this. If you don't want the bleed between the flat bars, you can kind of rock the finger back and forth rather than this. You can end up with something like this. Little subtle movements of the finger can keep your playing tidy and clear. Better than this. For me, anyway. Now, once you've slid back to the 9, we've got this. Come back to the 10th fret of the G, hammer on pull off to the 12 with the third finger, and then slide back to the 9 very quickly. And then you're going to very quickly move up to the 13th fret of the B with the third finger. Give it a little bit of vibrato if you want to sweeten it up. Sweet as a nut, mate. Perfect. 3 times in a row, but the third time, instead of going to the 13th fret of the B, you're going to go to the 15th fret. 2 extra frets higher. You better book a taxi. Now when we get there, straight into a whole tone bend. Grab the 15 on the high E with the pinky. Restrike the 15th fret, pre-bend release, and then I pull off back to the 13. If you want a bit of extra power, you could re-pick the 13th fret of the B like this. But I think it has a little bit more kind of softness and subtlety to it, so I just do a pull off. Little bit of vibrato on that resolution, and then wait and bend it up with your index finger, all by itself, a whole step. That is how I play the first of 3 exceptionally cool guitar solos in the legendary, iconic track that is November Rain by Guns N' Roses. Not gonna lie, had a little bit of help from this guy. The secret's out. I'm not actually picking, it's Slash. This is actually him, it's not a tattoo. That's where he lives now. How sad's that? After all that success in his career, this is where he lives. Pathetic. Nice one. Thanks for clicking this video today and choosing to learn this classic with me. If you enjoyed it, consider hitting like, subscribe, and the bell next to it. Leave me a comment and we can do this again sometime soon. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 in terms of this song and the solos, so you're in for a treat. Following the success of the shorts that I put out of this, one of them is almost at 1 million views. That's my most ever viewed video, and it's insane. So thank you. If you have struggled or you're confused with anything that went on in this lesson, like I mentioned before, you can get the tab for this on my Patreon, and I've put the scales and the different positions that we used and talked about in the intro on there as well. And it's annotated as best I can to give you all the help that you need. And I would appreciate the support. Now, the sad news, it's time for me to go. But the good news is, you know what's coming next. I'll see you soon.